Sorry about that, everyone. I do not know what happened. That was a strange occurrence. I believe we were in John's introduction, so sorry about
Yeah.
that, John. Feel free to go ahead now. You're muted. Amazing. It had to be one more thing.
Nice. Well, sorry about that.
No worries.
John, been playing for about 3 years. Started out playing Iron Hills with Dane. Love a good shield wall grind, so kind of made sense for me to play Boromir and the Minas Tirith boys at Birthday Bash.
Hell yeah. And you played Osgiliath, and we'll put the stats up in a second when
Reclamation
we're
of
going
Osgiliath,
through y'all's things. In fact, I might just put it back to back. Steven, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So I got back into the game after playing. I played a little bit back in 2001, 2002, 2003. Got back into the game around COVID. I've been playing ever since when I can get out to it. Primarily, I'm a hobbyist as my main competitive arena, but I like to play competitively too. Tournaments.
Very cool. Hold on. Discord is being weird. Okay. All right. So I think, Tomas, you had some questions for our guests here that we can go through. I'm going to go ahead and put up John's list and record, and we can talk about that too.
Yeah. Is John's list up? Let me know when it's up so
It
that
is
I can.
up, yes. The list is not. Hold on. Give me 1 second on the list.
Yeah.
There you go. You should be able to see
There
it
you go.
now.
All right.
Ooh.
Well, I'll start. Do I start with my questioning?
Sure.
Okay. John, just tell us a little bit about your list. Explain your choices. Go down your war bands.
Okay, well, basically to start the edition, I was playing a lot of Arnor. I was playing some Minas Morgul, kind of like efficient battle lines that I just like to play, but didn't really have a ton of success with either of those, just given that the meta was kind of incentivizing big heroes and shooting armies and things like that. So I was kind of looking for something different to do. And of course, my buddy Sam, who you guys had on the last episode, was running Reclamation of Osgiliath and having good success with it. It's a list I kind of vibe with. It's a good battle line list. It rewards good positioning. It's got good heroes. Boromir and Faramir have great synergy with the sharing resources rule. It also has an incredibly powerful army rule, right, where you can do the 1 turn plus 1 to wound within 6 of Boromir, which to me in this edition is kind of a precursor for a competitive list. You have to have one of these type of rules that can kind of build momentum and snowball. And if you're just like a fair army and you just show up and hope to win games, you're going to have a tough time. So that was my reasoning for taking it. Talked to Sam, got some feedback on what he was having success with. Honestly, a lot of the choices I made were like what models I owned. I probably would have built it a little bit differently if I had some different models, but I was fairly happy with it. All 3 heroes, if I did it again, I would take all 3 of these. They were all great. Madril came in clutch in a couple scenarios. So I know, Tomas, you like the captain, but I think Madril for me would be... I would almost never take the captain before Madril. I would take Madril, just knowing that you have some Maelstrom, things like Maelstrom, Recon in the pool. At this tournament, you don't know what you're specifically going to be playing, so having that tool in the toolkit is super important. As far as the troops go, I was really happy with everything. The only thing I'd probably do differently is maybe a couple less Rangers. Again, that was just like, this is what I have. I didn't have enough tin cans painted up to get more, so kind of probably went too heavy on the Rangers. But other than that, it's a very solid list. It has a good game plan, straightforward. Kind of builds itself, honestly. The real question is, third hero, do you want to take the captain? Do you want to take Madril? And yeah, I'm happy with it. It's a really fun, powerful list.
So what you're saying is that if you have like an infinite budget, you would just bring more tin cans instead of the less rangers and more tin cans. If you just, if you had the models
Yeah, if I had them painted up, I probably would have taken maybe 6 Rangers and then maybe 1 or 2 less Knights and just more tin cans, more bodies. There was a couple scenarios where I wished I had more bodies. But that's you have a 225 point hero, so you are sacrificing some body count there. But yeah, overall, that it's just a small tweak. It wouldn't be like there's nothing really massive to change, right? You don't have too many choices troops wise. But yeah, I would take a couple less Rangers, probably 6, and then everything else would be tin cans.
Very cool. Go ahead, Tomas.
And then I'll just rattle off all my questions, and then we'll move on to Steven, and we'll rattle the same question. So then, what did you not with this list particularly that you have? What army list did you want to see?
Any fair fight 4 list, right? That's just trying to be an efficient fight 4 battle line. I want to play that guy. I want to play the person who has fight 4, who wants to win on fight 4 and kill on fight 4. I'm fight 4.5. I've got a great rule that lets me get a +1 to wound. So on my best engaged turn, I get basically a free roll on the fights that I do win or tie. I win, get that +1 to wound, and kind of snowball the game early. Anybody, outside of Dale, let's put the caveat on that fight 4 army. I didn't want to play them, but most of the other fight 4 armies, Men of the West, no problem. I mean, they do get the 1 turn where they get the additional fight, but stuff like that where it's just other Minas Tirith lists that didn't have the banner. Anything fight 4 that I could line up and fight in a row, that would be my ideal matchup.
And then you were saying the list that you didn't want to see was Men of the West and anything.
No, he was fine with Men of the West. He was fine seeing.
It was just when they did use the +1 to fight on those turns, you didn't want to fight them. So
yeah, I mean, I think Men of the West is a fine matchup. What I didn't want to see was Dale and the Balrog. Both of those things are not things I was interested in playing.
Yeah, you fought one of them.
Yeah, I think you have the exact same sentiments as everyone. People don't want to play Dale, and they don't want to play the Balrogs. People most likely didn't want to fight Eagles, but they had already banned them for this tournament, so that wasn't a concern.
Yep.
True. All right, so let's move on to some of these initial questions for our champion. And let me get his list up.
Why I have to say it like that, man? Why you gotta bring John down, man?
What are you talking about?
Why you gotta rub it in his face, bro?
I didn't say anything to John. I was talking to our audience. Okay, our 2 viewers.
Okay. I was trying to bring John down, bro.
Steven's list is up. Are you familiar with it, Tomas?
Am I familiar with it? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I played it against the. Why don't you tell them what happened when I played against you with this list?
Well, I mean, you were saying rubbing it in, so I thought I'd mention it. Yeah, I mean, I won. You didn't go to any of the objectives.
Oh, okay. Well,
breakthrough, so
I was able to turn 1 kill his 200 points of his Witch King in one round of shooting. I'm sure that was very interactive.
Good
and fun to play against.
Who won the game? Anyways, let's move on. So, Steven, your list is up now. If you want to go ahead, talk about why you chose this, because it was something we discussed in the preview, and I initially said that I thought I was going to do a lot better than people thought. I think I was pretty vindicated in those words, but I'll let you go ahead and explain it.
Yeah, so this is kind of a dark horse list that I don't think was super on most people's radar. It should be on their radar now. It's a very good list. It falls into the archetype of, there's a bunch of different Aragorn and Legolas lists like based around them, like Men of the West. There's a lot of different lists where you can take those 2 heroes, and I think they're all pretty good. This one was one that had just been played at Richmond Open by my friend Bruno, and he got 2nd place with it, and he did really well. And at my armies, and I was thinking about what conceivably could I paint. I want to compete for best paint at every single event. And this one I had to paint like 6 models to do it, so that was like number 1 reason.
The layers.
I
wanted to like, army list on a mic, and I knew I could paint this one. And once you start digging into the rules and the play patterns of this list, it's very strong. It's very efficient. And if you haven't faced it before, it's kind of, it can surprise you with what it does.
I'm curious if you think its strengths at all will change with the new scenarios.
They will have to change because your play patterns are different. You'll have to figure out how to kind of split up your armies into various groups better. Things that play well in situations where people are splitting up and going on all over the place. You have Elven Cloaks. That's very strong. Cavalry can't threaten you from outside of your own charge range. You have Legolas. Legolas is really good against anybody who's trying to cluster around various objectives and do stuff. And then you have other good shooting too, and you have free marches, and you just have a ton of might. When you run into problems with this list, you spend 30 plus might in a game, and it solves a lot of problems.
Does solve a lot of problems. A lot of flubs can be fixed. Tomas, did you had your questions lined up? I'll go ahead and let you ask away.
So one of the main questions is what do you like about it? But like you said, you like the might. The might was one of the best things about this list that you're saying. What you liked about it. Well, what? I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Steven?
You've got Boromir of Gondor, might be the most undercosted model in the game. He's incredibly cheap. You get free Elven Cloaks on all of the heroes. That's a huge point savings. You get free Fortify Spirit. You get free Blinding Light. And you get the Can't Break rule on Frodo. So this list has a massive points efficiency where you just get tons of free stuff that you don't have to pay for. So in addition to the might, you also are getting tons and tons of other value. It's just very strong.
So what does this list do then when you face a 50 model count army in a objective scenario?
Say, asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend,
But this is a little tricky in that you can't just run out into the middle of the board and do your thing because you don't have enough models to do that. You have to really figure out what your game plan is to win the game at the beginning of the game, and then you have to execute that. So generally that means you are picking out what terrain you're going to be fighting in, what your battle line is going to be, how you're going to spend your might, and where you're going to go win. So when you play against a giant horde list, it's what the various objectives or scenarios are, but you can try to break them very quickly. You can manufacture situations where you yourself are broken, but you're not actually broken, so you can quarter without breaking. There's a lot of different tricks you can do to try to score out your VPs and do that. But by game, they will not be able to kill you if you find a choke point in the map where you can just block with your heroes and then you have your spears behind it. You'll just kill them and kill them and kill them. And then if it's an objective scenario, once you get close to breaking, then you have to know to heroic combat and have your guys run for objectives. Run there, but a list that rewards careful play, and you have to kind of treat it differently than other lists. Most hero heavy lists really have to play, I think.
That's some good knowledge. I would have, those comments about heroic combating, to go to the objectives once you're close to, depending on when the scenario ends, or just having your troops get killed on purpose so that you can force the break or the quarter. That's good information. That's good to know. I would have never thought about that. That just comes to my lack of experience playing lists like this or in this game. I've only been playing for a year tops. So that's good insight coming from you. Then in regards to the strategy behind your list, what didn't you wanna face then in this?
This list is scared more about scenarios than opposing armies, generally speaking. I really didn't want to play Reconnoiter, and we didn't, so that was nice. That's a reason why I didn't lose any of the games. This list loves to kill stuff. You can just kill. This list necessarily want to play lists that have massive guys that can outclass your guys. So you actually can fight the Balrog if they give you an opportunity. You can kill it with all of your heroes. But if they play smart and they play an objective, be dicey, or if they have an LSR who can go through and kill your fight 6 heroes, or a Glorfindel. Like, there are things you can do because you have so much might, but there are ways that those die rolls go badly for you, and then you're sad. Or coincidentally, you could always have a situation where you're charging across the open and you're expecting blinding light, and that doesn't happen, and then a ballista kills your guy. So, like, because you have so few models and your heroes are so important, the thing you really fear most is like flubbing your die rolls, because you can just die. It falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure flipping your die rolls with this list feels a lot worse than it does in the typical list where, losing a handful of guys, is just you're still a ways away from being broken. Losing a handful of guys in this one, you're 50% to being broken, So yeah, I
Except
can
you're
see
not gonna,
that.
Frodo's never gonna die, so
Oh well, true,
you're not.
but true about that. You actually can't get broken. But if they kill Frodo, with that ballista shot, then you're 50% there to getting broken if you lose a handful of guys. And what your pajama elves, they die quick. How do you counteract that?
Well, you don't ever let them get close, is what you do. I mean, a reason that people will not want to play this list or play against this list is the way you have to play it is very cagey and not necessarily the most interactive, because you are finding every piece of terrain you can on the board and you're making use of that. You're finding every choke point. You're going in the houses if you can go in the houses. Doors are going to be blocked by your heroes with the spears behind them. Like, you're going to use your elven cloaks. You're going to hide. You're going to force them just to fight your heroes, and you're just going to kill them. So the whole plan for your wood elves, you don't want them to fight. They're not there to fight. They're there to spear support, and they're there to capture objectives for you. So you're keeping them back. They're just keeping guys off your back, basically. They're not there to fight.
Okay, that's good to know. Anything else from you, Victor, that you want to ask?
No, I think we can go right into round one. I guess we'll start with Steven first, and then we'll go to John. Round one, Steven, you faced Rivendell, and you won 17-1. How was that match?
This one, particularly close. Just the way that the scenario was set up. My opponent kind of divided his troops across 3 different groups, attempt to flank me around some terrain, and that allowed me basically turn 1 to just wildly charge in the middle with all my heroes in heroic combat through. And it basically just collapsed in the middle, and then by the time the guys came around the flanks, it was too late. I don't think I lost heroes. I think I lost a couple wood elves, but it was just... I think the first turn Boromir went in, and he spent 4 might, so it's a lot of resources. He killed 2 Rivendell Knights and a Rivendell Knight with a banner, and he's only 100 points. Like, he just paid for himself instantly in 1 shot, and... for that, because Rivendell doesn't have enough numbers. He tried to cast Wrath of Brunnen. He's got his 6s, that's good. But then Aragorn gets 5 dice to resist because you have Fortify Spirit, resistant to magic, and then his 3 will. And then he goes in for the next Wrath, and I get 5 dice to resist from Frodo. Like, it's impossible for them to have the AoE magic go off against you. So it felt like it was a very hard counter for him. You don't want to play elves into this list if you don't have Glorfindel, which he couldn't at the time. So, not particularly challenging. It was a fun game, but I felt like I was in control of.
I see. Sounds like, yeah, you had it under control. How did the objectives go? Did you claim all of them?
In the end, I believe... Well, no, I missed 1. I got them all. Because the game didn't end. And eventually, Legolas just shot and killed his guys, and then I was able to heroic march. I mean, you just get constant heroic marches with Aragorn. You can run your troops very far.
Yeah.
They got them all.
Okay, awesome. Let's look at same scenario, which was capture and control. We'll look at John's record, and we'll hear what he has to say about it. Go ahead, John. You fought against the White Hand, the army of the White Hand.
I did. I played against Josh round 1. Great opponent, great game. To be honest, I was not vibing against Army of the White Hand with 4 Kerbane in this scenario. I thought I was in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing was it's 24-inch deployment, right? So I'm right up on the line. He's right up on the line. Lightning is not an issue right away, just because we're are basically head to head. So I didn't have to like deploy in the back 12 and deploy 3 guys, all spread out because I know I'm going to lose a couple models to Lightning. So I did have a little bit of saving grace there. The core issue was, Grima obviously deploys right with my heroes, and Saruman spends the entire game transfixing Boromir, who I think killed maybe 4 models the whole game. Didn't get a lot of use, right? So I blew all his will trying to resist and transfix and all this stuff, just didn't get through. So the game really came down to the battle lines and the banner. This was, I probably would say, the most clutch banner game because Boromir just couldn't carry. So I really relied on my troops to win, and he had quite a few Uriks in his build. It wasn't like Wildman spam. It was a lot of Urikai. So having fight 4.5 versus those guys was super clutch. And had a decent for Gondor turn. I mean, I think I got like 1 heroic combat off with Boromir. I did break him. I was able to contest most of the middle objectives and his back objective. So at the end of the game, I think I maybe had 2 or something, and a lot of the ones in the middle were neutral. So I kind of pulled out a small win. It was a great game, close game, came down to the last turn. Very fun. Not an army I enjoy playing against. It's Grima, Saruman, the Kerbane. There's so many things that are so good in that list. It's a tough play, but I was happy to beat it, and it was like I said, great game.
Really cool. Let's go on to your second round. We'll let you go ahead, John. What scenario was it? Do you remember?
I played Assassination against Joe.
Yes, Assassination. Yes. And he was playing Arnor, right?
Yeah. So whereas the first round I felt kind of like, I might be in some trouble here. The second round, I've played so much Arnor this edition, you can't believe. And I felt bad for Joe, who was a great opponent, had a great game. It was fun. But like the Arnor can do nothing to stop Boromir. And once that train gets rolling, especially in this scenario where like he's got a bunch of like fight 5 80-point heroes, it's an uphill battle for him. So even with the 5-up saves, which I mean he saved a reasonable amount of, it just the momentum's too much with the heroes chewing through his troops. So I was able to get Faramir into his target off a heroic combat, Faramir heroic combat into his target and kill it to win the game. I think I won 12-0. So that one wasn't as close. I mean, that's just like a matchup thing, right? Like Arnor does not want to play Assassination to begin with, especially not against Boromir and Faramir, who can share resources.
Right. Who was your target?
It was Argadir.
Oh, okay.
So he charged. He had a very heavy cav contingent. I'd say he probably had 7 or 8 cav. I had 5 plus Boromir, so he's fairly equal, right? But he really on one flank went hard with Argadir, and I had Faramir and Boromir in the middle, and he charged in, killed some guys, didn't combat, left me a space, and I just combated into him with Faramir, who's fight 6. So that was the end of that.
See, that's what you don't expect. For Faramir to come in and do the damage,
Denethor didn't expect it, but I did.
Well, very cool. Very cool. Your second round, Steven, how did that one go?
This was kind of an ugly game, unfortunately. I was playing against Terry, who's a great opponent, and he really took the... Terry's the best. He gave me a coin afterwards. Great guy.
What a guy.
He was playing Wolves AR in Assassination, and it was very unfortunate because there was a castle on the board within my half, so I could just put the Fellowship within the castle, and 50-millimeter werewolves can't get into the castle.
Oh man, yeah.
Oh wow.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah, so I had Legolas just up on the castle, just shooting away. Eventually, it wasn't very fun, so I did come down to fight. but I think enough damage was done, and the castle was a powerful enough anchor for me that there's not much he could do. And very unfortunately for him, he sent in only one of his ward chieftains, and it just so happened it was the one that was my target, and he sent it in on Legolas.
Oh my. Yeah, well,
Legolas was my assassin, and like
it's hard to know which one in that list because you'd have nothing but chieftains, so it's hard to know which one your opponent's targeting. But yeah.
The castle, it broke his spirit, so you just had to do that play,
Well, it's a very.
he
I
sent
think it's a cool list.
it just got really unlucky. There was, it's a 1 in 3 chance because he had 3 of those ward chieftains, and
Yeah.
he was gonna win probably no matter what. But that made it
a big swing.
more
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah. Well,
But
cool. That's awesome.
What you bring lists at all 40, 50 millimeter bases, and your opponent has a small army. Like terrain can just wreck you, and that's what happened.
There you go, Tomas. Your all Cav army arguments are being vindicated here by our first place champion. Tomas is not a fan of them. Even though he keeps asking me to get him 15 Gondorian knights.
Yeah, I keep on asking Victor to play 15 Rivendell Knights with Elrond and Arwen. But they have bows, so it shouldn't be too bad. You just kite around.
He just wants.
You just kite around, bro. He could have just dismounted and then just walked up to you. So,
Who? What? Who are you talking about?
You could just dismount and walk up.
They're wolves. They can't dismount.
Oh, it's wolves. It's all wolves. I thought it was I thought you had riders on them.
Wolves. No, it's not the wolf rider one. No, it's the wolf pack.
Oh, okay. I got confused. You could just put them on the diet before the game started. Put them on the 28 milliliter base, and then boom.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's move on to round 3 before we get too crazy here. We'll continue with you, Steven, and then we'll switch back to John. Halls, and it's going to work out well because at the end, no spoilers. Anyways, so Halls of Thranduil is who you face in the third round. What scenario was that?
So this is rough because Scott, who is my brother,
round
yes. 3.
Sam's pick to win.
Sam's pick to win, so he had that pressure riding up, and it was to the death. And as soon as I knew the scenario was to the death, I knew we were not going to have a fun game because we're competitive and we're going to play those really competitive style games. We've been playing against each other in games for 3 years at this point.
Two brothers built up there. Yeah.
That's right. And so I knew in this scenario, I have a banner. He doesn't. And he can't break me unless he kills. Immediately, I knew the way that this game was going to play out was I was going to maneuver around a little bit, take some pot shots, and eventually I was going to end up in a house because we were on a board that had the really nice conquest creation terrain that you can go inside of. This game ended up with him having to charge across the whole board. He took some casualties on the way. I got into a house and I blocked the entrances with my heroes, and then he had to try to break his way in through the doorways, and it just didn't work out for him. He didn't have enough Fight 5 hitters. The Fight 5 elves are just not enough to break through the Boromirs and the Gimlis.
Again, you don't want elves to fight into this list. I think that's the theme we're seeing.
I'm glad you were finally able to put it to rest and prove that you're the superior brother.
Lifetime, we're exactly like 50-50. It was my turn to win because he won Richmond Open. So
there we go. Yep, there we go.
I don't think we've been able to recap the scenario between the two of us. It might be a year or two before we can talk about what took place because it was a tough one.
Okay, tensions were high. All right. Well, let's move on to our third round for John. Let's put John's stuff back up. Now, John, you won this one 13-1, and I'm sure it felt good to win this one.
Yeah, so my third round was the scenarios to the death. It was versus Caleb playing Men of the West. He did not have a banner. I did, right? Flagomir. So he had to come to me, and I took pot shots on the way over. Didn't achieve a lot. Maybe killed 1 or 2 models. He was marching with Aragorn most of the game to, try and get to me. When he got to me, the lines met. I got Boromir into a captain early, killed a captain. I had what I would call monumental Fargandor turn this game. I'm going to keep going back to this, but like these broken army rules of just like I get to declare this for free. It costs me nothing. And, 12 or 14, 15 guys all get
counter.
+1 to wound. So,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, that basically, I would say within 2 turns of combat, the turn I for Gondor, I killed 7 or 8 models, and we both knew, like, okay, well, that's going to do it, right? So I'm outfighting you the rest of the game. I'm fight 4.5. I've got a 10 model advantage or something. Even with LSR, he got LSR. He combated LSR into Boromir, killed his horse. There was too much to overcome for him. The model count disadvantage was too much, so I was able to grind through and win that one in the end.
Do we remember how many that Caleb had in that list? How many models?
I would say probably low 30s if I had to guess. I don't know exactly, but I'm sure I know I had more models, but yeah he was in the 30s somewhere.
Did he have like LSR, Legolas, and the captain? Is that what
right.
you're looking at?
Yep. Which is the way I would build it. I didn't disagree. I think it's a very solid build, no question.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Yeah, very good. So that was to the death. So you won on banner VPs. You broke him. Did you kill LSR?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So that's kind of where you were missing.
I think I got quarter points, break points, banner points. I don't know that I don't even know that I put a wound on LSR. He killed Faramir. I put Faramir into LSR the last turn to try and get leader VPs.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you don't lose anything.
Just like whatever. Well, I did. I lose a VP, right? Because he killed Faramir, but it's worth it to me. I'm already winning by so much that it's worth it to take a shot. That I struck up with Faramir. Unfortunately for Faramir, he was not up to the task.
It's not as good as Boromir. Makes sense.
Not quite. Not quite.
Well, then you fought. Then you got to fight the Balrog, and we mentioned this a bit earlier. So let us know how this went down.
Yeah, so round 4, I played my buddy Mike, fellow Fredericksburgian. He was playing a very interesting build of the Balrog, where he has the Balrog, the Watcher, and then a very small amount of goblins, like 20-something goblins.
The hentai list. That's what it was.
This is where Madrill showed his quality, right?
Oh. Yeah.
So we're playing Command the Battlefield, Maelstrom. I think I saved 3 might total with where I wanted to come on. I should mention that we actually played on a board. I had a couple of my boards at the event, and the board we ended up playing on had a water feature that ran the entire length of the edge of the board. So of course I threw that shit in the trash immediately when we got home. But like, this is like, I'm like, Mike, how did I do this to myself? It was unbelievable. So coming on, I kind of wanted to keep that in mind, right? Like the Watcher around water is super, super potent. He also has the Balrog, so there's a lot to play with there. My plan was to just suicide into the Balrog, strength strike, and just see what happens. Just live a little. It didn't work out that way. Probably my favorite game of the tournament. Just both of us kind of being cagey, trying to see where the other one's going to go. He did ultimately, I think, the 4th or 5th turn, he decides to bring the Watcher on. It comes on that turn, comes in the water. He makes a very aggressive play, charges the Watcher into Boromir. Trying to make a play where he pulls Boromir out of the combat with the Balrog whip into the Balrog, which would have won him the game, right? I think I'd probably lose if he does what he wants to do. It didn't work out, and Boromir called for Gondor, and I got to one-shot the Watcher with Boromir, like 100 guys all charged it, so they all got +1 to wound. That was probably my favorite moment. Just it was basically like the game. This combat's going to decide who wins the game. And it just worked out for me, so that was fun. Right. But yeah, certainly It's a very interesting build of depths. It's not how I would build it. For whatever reason, I just like more bodies. I would always just go with the Balrog and a bunch of
Hey, and
goblins.
those goblins are mean in that list, I'm telling you.
They are, man. Board wide banner, +1 to courage just naturally because of the drums.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I always kind of favor spamming the bodies. But yeah, I mean, I've seen Mike use this list very effectively, and he's beaten me with it before. Right? It's a good list. I know there's something there, but in this particular scenario, it's better to have more bodies, right? Because you want to be in more places. So
yeah. He beat me
just
by
kinda
1 point in round 1. Mike did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I even killed the Balrog, but I couldn't get enough of the objectives because I remember it was capture and control, and he had the Watcher just pulling my guys off objectives the whole time. So yeah, it was. I mean, it happens. It's a list, but yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The scenarios that we had left, the best option for me was literally the one we got. So,
and I mean, Madril, of course, is going to be a hero in that. So
Madril's incredible in it. I actually think I had the same amount of raw body count that he did. I think he had 38 models. Right now, of course, he's got 200 plus point heroes. But in this scenario, like it's just about having bodies, and on a raw body count, my guys totally outfight his, outstrength them, outd them. Like if I just send 6 guys to a corner and he sends 6 goblins to a corner, I'm going to win every time.
Yeah.
Statistically, right? So like it was a very lucky draw for me, no question about it. In like, let's say something like Hold Ground, where I just have to go to the middle and I have to fight the Balrog and I have to fight the Watcher. Probably not sweet, but yeah. Command the Battlefield was definitely a favorable draw for my list.
Very cool. Well, let's go to round 4 for Steven. We'll talk about that. On that one, you fought Erebor Reclaimed. So I guess your bows weren't going to do too much, or did they?
Well, if you want to talk about scenarios where you want to play against dwarves, the battlefield is a scenario where you want to play.
Yeah.
The move fight everywhere. The way that this scenario kind of played out, I had to deploy first. I want to do that. However, I cleverly rolled 1s for both of my warbands. So actually, he had to go first. And he had to spend a bunch of might to bring on most of his troops in a corner. So he took the approach of kind of safety, keeping them all together as one group as opposed to splitting up from the onset. For Beaufort, who he let me place. And so, of course, I got to put Beaufort where I wanted him to be. And so the game started with my warband coming out, surrounding Beaufort, and doing a free heroic combat to slingshot my guys forward.
Was it Beaufort on the troll?
The next,
it was just Beaufort and some guys.
It's a naked Beaufort.
Oh,
one drop.
Okay.
He was just available for the killing. I think when I came in, I just kind of body blocked around him, and then I just ran him down. And my Haldir made things interesting by rolling a 1 4 turns in a row to come into play. That are very low. Thank goodness the doors are very slow. Happened to me yet by the time they came on. Basically, I got to fight his main warband of heroes because he was playing a hero-heavy version with, I think, 5 total Dwarven heroes. I got to fight his main battle group in a ruin. He took the approach of protecting his heroes and sending his troops forward first to fight against my heroes. And I think he underestimated kind of the killing power of breaking the fellowship because I had Gimli had the +1 to wound because Legolas was ahead on kills because he was shooting crossbowmen. So he 2-handed plus the +1 to wound, so you have +2 to wound. Then you have Haldir, who's 2-handing. Then you have Aragorn, who's 2-handing. And then Boromir gets to reroll.
You're really speaking my language right now.
It's a lot of killing. So I had to spend a lot of. It's a lot of 2-handing. You have to spend your might to. I think you freely are just spending your might to win the fights.
Oh yeah.
But I was consistently killing like 5 dwarves a turn in combat, and he wasn't killing anything. And after 3 rounds of that, yikes. So basically, what I ended up getting to do, I got to split off Legolas, Frodo, and most of my wood elves to go secure different parts of the board. And Legolas was just spending his might to kill crossbowmen who were the dwarves that were going out to try to capture the other board ends. And then I didn't really kill any of the other dwarven heroes, but the regular dwarves just collapsed. And it's kind of heroic combat through them, and kind of got crushed.
And what did you get? 2, 3 quadrants, it looks like? I don't think we heard that. What did you say?
Didn't wound the hero. Didn't wound Thorin.
I see. All right. Well, without further ado, this last round is interesting because I think we have something to tell you all, you listeners. We have the 2 participants right here. So I guess they can talk through round 5 together. It was Breaking the Fellowship versus Osgiliath.
I guess I'll start. I'm actually really interested to hear. We've talked about it a little bit, but here's Steven's postmortem on this. We played Fog of War, which for me was total worst case scenario. Not what I wanted to play scenario wise. I was like, fingers crossed for Recon. That would have been awesome. We did not get Recon. We got Fog of War. So from my perspective, I'm thinking my heroes, besides Boromir, I'm not as worried about, can't really ever see combat, right? Just with the amount of firepower he has, I can't put him anywhere close to the front line. I thought he would pick Madril. Turns out he didn't. So I was playing Madril in a way where he was just nowhere close anywhere to getting shot or anything else. The board we played on had kind of a choke point on the one side, so I avoided that, went around. My train piece was on the other side. Didn't want to engage him in that choke point because against breaking, that's just a recipe for it's suicide, right? You cannot win in a choke point against breaking. Even if I put Boromir in, my horse gets shot out, which it got shot out anyways, Legolas. But if you put your Boromir in combat, your horse is dead. You're losing to, their Boromir, their Aragorn. There's so many tools they have to answer your one big hero, and your other 2 heroes, you really can't afford to have anywhere close to that fight, right? Because they just have so many tools to get into them. So I was a little concerned about engaging in a choke point. I kind of went to the open part of the field where I felt like I had more of a way to deploy my battle line. I was also chasing Legolas, who was shooting me to death, and chased him in a circle for a couple hours. He killed 13 or 14 miles with shooting. It was awesome.
Gosh, yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He re-rolls. He can't miss, right? He hits on 2s. He re-rolls 1s because he's always got a Wood Elf with him. So he hits every turn with 3 shots, and over the course of a game, he's going to kill stuff. So, yeah, from my perspective, a little bit frustrating, right? Because you like to be able to engage. Like my play style, I like to play like battle line armies, just line up, tactical play, positioning, stuff like that. Breaking for me is like it's hard to process how to play against it, how to be effective against it, because it's just a different game. With that being said, it's a very good list, and Steven plays it extremely well. It's the type of list where you put it in a very good player's hands, and people think it's kind of like a meme, right? And they're like, "Oh man, dude!" Like they walk into it and they're like, "Oh, you have 18 models. I got 40. I'm going to crush you," and then they lose 20-0, right, or 0-20. It's a very good list, especially in scenarios like this where body count is totally irrelevant, really. I mean, for the terrain piece, maybe, but realistically, that doesn't matter. It's about the heroes. It's about the quality of your heroes. It's about the ability to protect those heroes. And breaking is, it's difficult to play against, even with a baseline level player, let alone somebody like Steven who has it. It's a tough matchup for sure. So, yeah, I wish we would have played Recon. But from my perspective, I think I played it the way I should have.
Which was, you went for your terrain piece and you got that? That's where you got
and I chased Legolas, who was my target around, and
you protected Madril?
Yes, Madril was my protect.
Gotcha.
I just knew I don't want Madrigal in combat in a normal game, like against normal troops. That's not what his job is, right? So against breaking specifically, especially with stuff like Legolas, even Faramir's a little bit of a risk. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure,
Madrigal was nowhere close to getting shot or anywhere in danger. Yeah.
Well, Steven, what do you have to say about this last round?
So the first thing that you got to understand, when you're playing on top table of a big tournament, and this was a big tournament, I think 46 players in the end or something like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And the goal is to win the tournament, and that's what matters. So the way that the scoring for this tournament worked was record was most important, followed by TP, VPs, whatever. So because John and I were the only undefeated players, ahead of John on breakers, I knew that if there was a draw in this game, that I would win the tournament. So that meant that I wanted to do everything possible to make it very difficult for John to try to score VPs for me. So when you initially look at Fog of War, there's no way that I can defend an objective from him because he has all of his knights. That's too risky. I go and I base trade with him, and I take my objective, then we're even on VPs. And it's a situation where there's no reason for me to risk anything ever. I didn't this game. Basically, I marched towards an advantageous position for myself, and John could have stayed and fought while I was heavily advantaged. And John would have to split his forces to go capture his objective as well. And I probably would have done the damage there. Faramir was my target because I knew Faramir wasn't involved in the fighting. He was not going to win that fight. He needed the additional fight 6 striker, and then Faramir's kind of easy mate for me. So basically, I moved my troops forward up towards my objective. John jigged to the side to go to my objective, and then I was, that's fine. You can take my objective. I'll sit back here. I have elven cloaks. You can't shoot me. And I'll just shoot at you. And if you come close to me, I'll keep shooting you until I can potentially break you. And then I win either way. And I can't send my troops forward at that point out of the Elven Cloak because it's Fog of War and I have an all-hero army. Theoretically, any single one of those heroes could have been the choice. And if I send them forward and through Blinding Light or Blinding Light doesn't go off and 3 Rangers shoot him and they take a wound and I lose the game immediately. So what that ends up meaning is I'm hiding behind terrain. I'm creating this horrible choke point that John can come at me if he wants and take pot shots. And by then, John had taken, enough casualties. He had lost Boromir's horse shooting. There's just no reason for him to march forward and get been broken in a single turn of combat because I had spent a single resource. I just sat there in my bunker, absolutely no risk whatsoever, and that was the game.
Wow. I didn't know that. I was playing my last game until about the end, so I didn't know that that's how it went. It's a very interesting way to end. I kind of understand what John's saying when he's like it's a different game because you were just you weren't lining up. You didn't have
good
to,
answer, right?
There's no good answer.
You can march in and get just absolutely annihilated, but if you sit back, you get shot to pieces and you can't shoot them back, right? So it's for me playing the army I was playing, it was worst case scenario. I have no tools to deal with what Steven had on the table, and the scenario didn't ask me to have tools. It's like do what Steven's doing, and I wasn't.
do it better than him. No.
Yeah. No, I didn't have those tools. I was like praying to the dice gods that we got recon last round, but it didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
It can be understated enough how important it is when one player in these scenarios has the pole position where they don't have to do anything to win the tournament. It's so hard to play against that advantage. It's the same as like when you have a banner and they don't. It puts you in really bad position.
Yeah, this sounds like the way you played it, Steven, was very meta. You weren't playing the game; you were playing the tournament in that last round, and that like John was saying, it's a different game. sadly, some people don't want to play against something like that. They want to just
Sadly.
pull up and roll dice and play like an honorable game, just clashing battle lines. But you went for the jugular, you played to win, and it shows. That tournament in the background right there, that proves that strategy worked out.
Well, very, very cool. I thank you guys both for coming on tremendously. It gives a lot of credence to our little podcast here because, I've won like one tournament, and so we need some competitive edge here. So thank you for coming on tremendously.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys too. I'm glad you guys were able to pull through and took time out of your day.
Yeah, is there anything else you guys wanted to say or speak about in the tournament before we sign off?
Yeah, I'd actually like to say a couple things.
Oh.
I thought the tournament turnout was incredible. It was awesome to see so many people out there. I love that we have such a great scene here. It's fantastic. I love the list diversity. There was so many different interesting lists. It wasn't just all the top tier broken stuff. I mean, there was some of it, right? There was Dale, there was Army of the White Hand, there was Balrogs, right? The good lists were there. But certainly people were playing some stuff that you wouldn't call like top tier and still having fun, doing well. I think Max that you were talking about earlier played Airborne, did really well with that. That's really cool to see. So just seeing people do well with lists that we wouldn't all consider to be the tippity top was awesome. Shouting out Hobart, Lodar, they did a great job with everything, so it was really fun. And I would just hope that we continue that momentum, man. Going into the new Army book, the new match play guide.
Heck yeah.
We've got events coming up this fall here in Fredericksburg. Tim runs the escalation events, which we'll be posting about in all the chats here soon. So
we got SummerSlam coming up as well.
Yep, SummerSlam's coming up. Nova's coming up. We've got a lot of momentum. Yep.
It's going to be real fun. Well, cool, guys. Thanks for coming on. Steven, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think just to reiterate what John said, tournaments at this point, I think this was the most fun atmosphere for a serious 2-day tournament. If you compare it to Nova or even some of the other ones, didn't feel as cutthroat or try hard. It seemed like people were having a lot of fun. It really comes down to Chris Hobart and the events that he runs, and kind of his emphasis. And I think people had a lot of fun with that. That was great.
Well, yeah, really, really cool. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention something at the end. I'm seeing in the chat, this was posted 20 plus minutes ago. It said, "Bad list, bad players, so much hate." I believe that was your brother, Steven.
Really?
What do you have to say about that?
That bad list and that bad player beat him.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say to that list diversity, when we look at both of your records, you didn't, besides each other, you didn't play any of the same lists. So that goes to a long way, I think, to show how diverse they were, even though like in the preview, it looked like it wasn't because there were so many Aragorns around, but they were in different lists.
Yeah, there's a lot. Aragorn was the most played model because he was in like 6 lists, but 3 were Men of the West and 3.
No, there was
one was your list, and then 2 was Great Company, or
Return of the King.
Return of the King. That's what it was.
Great Company wasn't out yet, and
it's not out.
Don't even mention that. It hurts me to even hear them. I love the Grey Company. They're so cool in the books. They're so awesome in the books. And now, you're never going to see them. You'll just never see them.
Don't get me started with Imrahil.
Victor, you'll be very happy to know that my declared Nova list is Minas Morgul, and I'm putting all of my playtesting effort this summer into Minas Morgul, perfecting the most competitive list we can make. So
that's awesome. I'm thrilled about that. Tips. Yes, if you need any tips, let me know.
He's just going to tell you to fill your army with 2-handers.
No,
Don't
quiet down. Because look, John just, spiritually got second place for you, Tomas, because you are a Minas Tirith player. You
Yeah.
also
It's like
were,
I won.
you also were saying Osgiliath was bad, which I would never do to Minas Morgul. But yeah, I hope John, I hope you go on to win that. I'll feel somewhat vicariously vindicated if Minas Morgul's able to win there. I will tell you to use some two-handers. Some.
Your whole front line should be two-handers with this guy. He's saying some because he's trying to make your list more competitive, you know.
Well, just wait for my
But
golf.
what's more
Just wait for my
competitive than
golfable
working on
list. It's gonna
threes,
be even
you know?
better.
Oh my god, that's another nightmare.
Anyways,
I get flashbacks playing against two-handers. You know,
you have such a
Victor
skewed
uses it so
version of
much.
this game, though, Tomas, because we
I
play
know.
so often, and you
Okay,
think
I-
some things are really good that everyone else is like, no, it's not that good.
You know, it's just
When I heard the review and I heard Tomas saying that he didn't like breaking the fellowship, I knew I had a good chance. That was when my
that's good
odds
to
went.
hear. That's good to hear. I knew, you know, now that's the trick. You know, just say that list is bad, and that's going to be the one that wins.
Oh
Just
yeah.
send me over
Also,
your list for Nova, Steven, and I'll tell you how bad it is so that you can win.
I was gonna say, do you want to address any of the haters right now, Tomas?
And the haters, you know, no, I was just
No.
I was just talking shit, bro. If they didn't like what I had to say, that's fine by me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I hope it didn't hurt theirs. I was just talking shit. So
Fun when everyone doesn't agree. So you gotta have someone out there saying that.
No, I know he's our resident expert. You know,
I am the resident expert. So what I say does carry a lot of weight. So you
A
should
lot.
listen to it.
No question.
And take it for what it is. You know. Breaking the fellowship, that was just, you know, my one bad call out of most of my amazing calls, you know. So
It's a fluke.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know what the averages are in batting, but I know if you're batting like at least 69%, that's really good.
That's impossible.
That would be
69% is you're the best baseball player of all time. But
Exactly.
Oh
I'm
my
glad you
gosh.
realized that, John. I'm glad. I would say I'm one of the best
One of the best experts of all time.
Podcasters / experts out there. I am batting 69% with all of my calls, so that's good to hear that you believe that you think that, John.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you guys for coming on. We really appreciate it. I think we'll be on for our preview of SummerSlam coming up in August, but we'll do that much later. Anything else we want to say, gentlemen, before we sign off? Sounds good. All right. I think Tomas does have something to say, though.
And if I have my sign off, well, take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. And remember, chat, stay informed.